me see. All right, brief commercial. Who's here for the first time? Anybody? Okay, a couple people. Welcome. Yeah, the watershed has been around over 75 years. That's pretty significant in the environmental world, nonprofit world. Our mission is to keep water clean, healthy, and safe. And we work to protect and restore our water resources in, I would say, central New Jersey, but it's expanded beyond that. We have 4 separate programs. We have a conservation program, which has partnered with Sourlands. We're very grateful for having, staff, interns, all of the above come from Sourlands and plant numerous trees here, including pawpaws, one of my favorites. I don't know where they are planted, and if I did, I wouldn't tell you. So, but the conservation effort is, trying to maintain an almost 1,000 acre preserve at a time when really the environment's just in crisis. All the ash trees are dying. It's just a real challenge, almost a thankless challenge. I'm glad I don't have to walk around the world out there with that focus, because it's overwhelming how many things can be taking over. The conservation effort also is outside of the reserve, and through partnerships like the one with Sourlands is trying to make a difference. We have an advocacy program. That's our policy director, Mike, AKA the Lorax. I don't know that he likes that or looks that, but it's a pretty robust program that functions locally and statewide and even nationally to preserve the environment through protective legislation and through meetings at planning boards, zoning boards, the State House. And really, I think that's one of the things that makes this organization really rich. We have a science program. The science program puts community volunteers out along waterways doing regular water testing. The science program has installed, with some other partners, floating wetlands to help remediate excess nutrient load in waterways. We've removed one dam and seen the impact of that, which is that shad are now migrating up the Millstone River again. Unfortunately, they can't get so far until we get rid of Blackwell's Mills Dam, but that wasn't, I wasn't lobbying. Yes, I was. And we have an education program, and the education program looks to engage learners of all ages, really to help fortify environmental literacy. We have too many people walking around questioning climate change, not understanding how evidence-based science works, and it's not a debate. And here we are again. I won't get political. This is my one statement, right? We're questioning reality, and that's kind of unfortunate. So a lot of our effort is focused on little people, young people, students, but not solely that. Because I look around the room, maybe there's a student or two in here. So, yep. That's our home, and this is where we are, and you know where we are because you were there too. So, phenology, have you heard this word before? Okay, anybody want to take a stab at a definition? No problems with being, yeah. Oh, Andrew.
Maybe something based off of visual appeal or something, like pheno being like
Interesting.
What looks like. And I'll do the study of that,
Okay, all right.
maybe.
All right, the ology is right, yes.
I don't know what it means, but I'm guessing maybe it has something to do with not climate, but weather related, how biology responds or nature responds to.
It's really that cyclical nature of phenomena. Right? So you may look forward every year. I don't know. Naturalists are just like, oh, this is my favorite moment. Like right now, my favorite moment, snow on the ground. And you go tracking right now, all you see is fox tracks crossing because they're courting and they just braid tracks. It's not oh, we must braid tracks. It's an expression of love. One of them's following the other. When I tracked on Monday night, there was one spot where they just laid down in the trail. There's a body print here, a body print here. There was another spot where one of the male decided to scent mark So it's squatted in the snow. You can see the two front paws burned in, the hindquarters burned in, a little drop of fluid, and the tail swishing in the snow. And no, I didn't see this happen, but it's there, right? So anyway, phenology. It's the study of timing, of the timing of seasonal biological activity. So technically, phenology would not include like, oh, Perseids meteor showers, but it would include, oh, dogwoods are blooming now, or the salamander rain, as referenced before. It comes from the Greek word pheno, which means to appear, to come into view, and logos, to study. And it was coined by a Belgian botanist, Charles Morin, which is something I learned probably 24 hours ago. Oops, I hope that didn't mess up technology here. So let's just do a little quiz. This sugar maple leaf fire, that's my name, but you know what I'm talking about. When does that happen? When do the sugar maples just...
October.
October, okay, October, good.
Yeah.
When do spring peepers like just really ramp up their chorus? Oh, yeah, I like that. So that's the thing, when we're talking about a month, you know, I could go through journals and say, yeah, it's the middle of March, but it's not the middle of March, it moves around. So I would say this is March. But yeah, they last into April. You still hear some in May. And in May, I'm sure they have all bred, and it's just like the guys being guys, right? Hey, wait, maybe I can do this again. And it's, you know, a physiologist would say, yeah, the hormone level keeps them chirping like that. So how about firefly season? What was that? Yeah. So June, July. I used to say when I started here, absolutely, 4th of July is the peak of fireflies, and it's definitely, what's that?
I see the larvae as early as March.
Well, the larvae are out all the time. I mean, they're either hibernating or they're pupated now.
Cooler than they.
But they really start up. I'm starting to see them as early as May, but it's all species dependent. But that big season happens the end of June. So let's see. Let me ask you to think for a moment, and this is true for all of you online. I'm not neglecting you. Think for a moment about one of your favorites. It doesn't have to be the favorite, because that makes this a tough process. A favorite natural phenomena during the cycle of a year. So just think to yourself. We've mentioned a few here. Okay, turn to a neighbor, a stranger, whoever's nearby, and share what you're thinking about. If you're online, can we use the chat? Is that visible? Yeah, if you're online, you can type into the chat what you're thinking about. All right. I bet I could just walk out of the room for 15 minutes and nobody would notice. That's good. Somebody want to share one of the things that you just talked about? Yes.
With certain birds showing up or leaving.
That's it. You don't have a favorite bird? Come on. Oh, red-winged blackbirds are a good one. And I didn't include them in this presentation. I had a slide. Yeah, red-winged blackbirds are a moment. When does that happen? Yeah, it depends on where you are, but it's right around Valentine's Day. This little, like right here, I'm lucky to have this little marsh right outside my window, and then there's no red-winged blackbirds, and then suddenly one day they're all there, and all the males are going nuts, and it's just, yeah, good one. What we had? We had somebody online say monarch migration. Is that what it was? The fall migration?
Yep, there's witch hazel in bloom, another one, and
Witch hazel's a good one. What else was there?
Tea from redbuds, American toads.
Oh, redbuds. Oh, American toads. Good. What else did you talk out here? Yeah, Karen?
Skunk cabbage,
Yeah, skunk cabbage. Yep.
one of the first things that actually warms up the soil so we can grow.
Yeah, skunk cabbage generates heat. It's a pretty cool phenomena. One more. Yes.
I love to see the blooming of a lotus flower on the pond.
Oh, now do you live near a pond with lotuses?
Grounds for Sculpture has a pond.
Oh,
with
yeah.
lotus.
Yeah, nice.
Very beautiful.
Very cool. Good. Good. All right, let's see. Okay, now this, we're gonna have to get creative here. I guess I can you have a wireless mic on? All right, let me get this set up first. All right, we have a card game we're gonna play. That made no sense, did it? Especially if I can't find the card. Okay. All right, if you're at home, bear with me. I'm gonna hand out some cards that have events. And the people here are gonna be challenged to put them in sequential order. Yep, so if you're at home, you're in the safety of being away. But we're gonna, once I hand out the cards, we'll share the phenomena, and when they've got an order, we'll be able to steer the camera so they can see it, is that right? Okay. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Okay. What is that? Oh, okay. So, I don't know if they can hear me, but I'll assume they can, because I know you guys can. So I'm just gonna hand out these cards, and if I skip you, it's because they're kind of in order. So, I just wanna make sure. And this can be a group event, meaning, you can work together. And some of these phenomena may be questionable. Like, what is that? Let me see if we go over here. You know what, I'm gonna put this, two hands. You have one? For you. For you. For you. You. All right. Who? Oh, yeah. All right, you're not up to hook. Who's really itching for one of these cards?
Jeff, here's another one. You gave me two.
Oh, when you get twice the work. All right, excellent.
Here.
I didn't mean to miss you.
Here, I gotta switch.
This doesn't work? Ground control? Does that work? They'll tell you, right? Does anybody, I have more cards. Does anybody need a card? You're good? All right, so this is the portion of the program where you have to get up and talk to your neighbors and figure out the order. For those of you, Yankees no good. Did you get feedback? It's not working. Okay, so let me just go to the mic.
I'll just plug this back in.
Oh, interesting.
That's how it should.
But this is the one, okay. So for those of you at home, you can probably hear a lot of banter. They're trying to get some cards in order. We'll showcase this in a moment. So just hang with us for a minute, pop the popcorn, get yourself a beverage. It'll just take a few minutes. Judging by the way they're doing this, it might take more than a few minutes. Okay, so just some guidance that wasn't provided. Right here is where the beginning of the year will be. Beginning of the year is in front of this podium. And the end of the year is over here. Beginning of the year is by the podium. If you don't really know what you have, you've got neighbors, just look around and ask. It's okay. He's just a little nuts.
Somewhere around, they're about the same time. Silly dance. Yeah, I think that's
I don't know what grade we're now.
what you have?
Grade we're now.
Oh, I have no idea.
I have zero idea what it is. I feel like they migrate right now. Sourlands migrate.
But if recording, we'd be hearing them, so I would think
I think you're after us.
Yeah.
December, January, I would think.
Oh, you think?
They're probably like timing for like when it's spring.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you on that.
You can stay there and he'll correct you.
No. Owls are not my forte.
Okay.
Check him out, though. Is he right?
Okay, let me see. I'm gonna grab a cheat sheet here. I don't know how we're gonna include people from this.
Maybe they wanna stand right where it
I didn't know what it was.
Okay, let's listen up. This is, I love the process, and this is a gradeless test, so it's all good. And it's tricky, it's not exact either, because some of these things happen simultaneously. And the trickiest part is the beginning, or is it the end? So that's a clue. Is that the beginning, or is that the end?
I don't know. Is there ever a beginning or end?
Also, you have some that say migrate, are they migrating
Yeah,
to or from?
we'll cover. So there's an event. There's an event. So on one direction, there's an event. The other direction, there's not an event. So that's, So this comes from a natural spline. We'll explain it. So Andrew has great horned owls courting, and I guess they're courting now. I have that as an end of year thing, a December thing.
December.
Because what's going on now is they're on nests and they're laying eggs. So I'm sending you to them.
Go straight to you first again.
All right. I don't remember if anybody is ahead of Dan, but Dan has groundhogs waking from hibernation. How do you feel about that? So you know what? Groundhog Day is Groundhog Day for a reason. And they do wake up in February. And when I lived on the property for 20 years, I would say half of those years there was snow on the ground around that time. And when there was snow on the ground, they always woke up, give or take a week away from Groundhog's Day. Last year I had a game camera up that caught them on film, running around with grass in his mouth, January 14th. So that I had never seen before. So that was good. Tell me about the woodcocks migrate. So,
Woodcock, well, there are these birds that do a crazy courting dance. Crazy courting dance, and I know it's about the time of Groundhog Day.
groundhogs come out first, of course, and then the woodcocks are they're like, you don't know what they are. They're a lost shorebird. They live inland. Oh, wait, they forgot about a tail. They have a really long beak, and they eat primarily earthworms. So they fly south. If it's a warm winter, you can find them in Cape May, year round. But generally, they fly north in this dramatic event. I've been on woodcock watches that are in May, but if you want a chance to see a lot of them, hear them is what you do. It's usually very beginning of March, and lately it's been happening before that. I can change. Spring peepers, around the same time, we get this little tree frog, which a lot of people might suspect is an insect or a bird, because you might not think a little tiny inch-long tree frog can make that much noise. But they're waking up. During the course of the winter, we froze solid. So they have cellular adaptations that channel water out of the cells so the cells don't burst. Cool trick, right? We have here red knot migration. We're gonna just send it this way a little bit. That's all right. That's a tough one. So spring beauties. When do spring beauties bloom? If you know this flower. Yeah, April. They're kind of at their peak. There's always some. Oh, look, it's March. I see some. But April is definitely a big month there. I don't know if anybody else is in front of that. Maybe not. Oh, we got everything's happening at once. Green frog, West strawberries go this way a little bit. Shad, shad migrates upward. Who knows the shad?
Shagfest.
Yeah, so shad is a fish that, it's a migratory fish. It's dependent on unblocked rivers and clean water. The Delaware River didn't used to match that. It is the largest undammed river east of the Mississippi. Cool fact, wasn't gonna be the case with Tox Island, if anybody's old enough to remember that.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's also now clean enough for them to migrate, but there was such a pollution block. If you lived in Philly or any of those cities and you flushed the toilet, you know where it went. And that was a problem, because just the excess nutrient load and degradation, the decay would make sure that the fish just couldn't get through. There was an oxygen block. So they're migrating north again. Yay. Or, sorry, upstream again. First monarch. There's a bunch gonna happen at the same time. Sure. So first monarch, you know what, used to do the World Series of Birding. Can anybody hear me over there? Maybe, yep. World Series of Birding, it's this event where you go out and count all the species you can see. It's competitive. It's competitive. That's why I stopped doing it. It's just fun to do. We would always see a monarch. It's always, I want to say the first or second weekend in May, we would always see a monarch. It's like, yay, they're here. And then we'd wait 2 or 3 more weeks before we saw a second one. But first monarch is like always in May. And it's the Sourlands. I don't see him here in May. I think Allison Jackson probably comes here in May. Red knots. We'll keep you there. Red knots are May. Good job. May, June, when there's a full moon or a new moon pulling the tide. The separate decacars, there's something called a horseshoe crab. And horseshoe crabs come out in like this prehistoric mass. Just to cover the beach, they lay their eggs. Red knots, their migration lands at the peak of that. They land in Delaware Bay and feast on those eggs. So it's one of those delicate balances, and you know, climate change biologists are really nervous about these interactions, because if something goes awry, then we've got part of the system collapsing. Trying to see what else is here. Oh, everything's happening at once. Let's do morels next. You know, about morels are a really yummy mushroom, and as a birder, I used to abandon my birding in early May because suddenly I'd find where a tulip tree fell and there were all these morels. Really tasty, you can find them out in the market, and if that sounds hazardous, there are, eating wild mushrooms can be, but there's a handful that are just really safe. They can't be confused with anything, and they're definitely worth getting to know because they're tasty. And otherwise, they're expensive. So, well, strawberry, what is this one? There's a lot. Let's go with green frogs. So green frogs, I like the way that wasn't a frog walk, but I like the saunter. Green frogs are green. They've got yellowish on their chin. They banjo string. I didn't make that up, and nor have I heard that. They are boom, 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 boom. And that chorus really revs up in May.
Pretty good though.
Fun happening. Wild strawberries, not soon enough. What are we talking about? Maybe mid-June. I'd have to refer to my notes, but I'm shameless. I'm not going to do that. But wild strawberries are certainly, when I lived here for 20 years, I knew where they were.
They seem to come after the commercial strawberries, that's all I know.
You know, the thing with wild strawberries, I'm just a fan of the wild berries because their intensity is so strong. When you breed something for size, you lose some of those other traits. Bullfrogs, yeah. Bullfrogs, we know that song, it says bullfrog juggerums, right? And same thing, if you're at a pond, do you have them at your pond? Like, do they go berserk? Is there a bunch of them? And bullfrogs are pretty formidable predators. At our pond, they used to hang out underneath the multiflora rows where grackles would nest. Grackles are sort of colonial-ish nesters, like there'd be a nest here and a nest there. Like they as long as I can't reach you from my nest, we're cool, nesting next to each other. And they would wait for the nestlings. They're like, the bird would fall out and they would eat them. So that's nature's way. Blackberries, July, mid-July. And there's a lot of variation with blackberries. And season to season, like the drought really affects them. They get seedy and not so juicy or enjoyable. Oh, I should put you in front. I should put you around bullfrog. Peak fire, right there, perfect. Fireflies we mentioned earlier, June, July. Dragonfly migration. This is one that, what do they migrate? So large dragonflies migrate, and you can see that in September. And the best time to see that, mid-September, when the sun is at a low angle, because as they fly around, their wings are reflecting light. So you can see them. And they are just working an area over a pond, or they do the lawn, or a meadow, just eating any insect around. Sugar maple, now we jumped, right? We jumped all the way into the fall, that moment when, boom, the woods look like they're on fire. And here's our owl again, right? The owl is courting, saying, what does it say? Am I putting you on the spot? And we start to hear that a lot in December. And now we're going to sit down so that the people online don't leave. Okay, thank you, everybody. You put the cards on this table or that table. Yay. Oh no. All right, thanks those of you afar for hanging in there. Okay, what is going on here? Here we go. All right, so that's phenology. That's this cycle of life, and that's just a tiny list. Maybe some of you, when you were talking, thought of some other moments. That's something we've all encountered before. Haiku, have we encountered that before? So what is haiku? Can anybody tell me any characteristics of haiku? Better yet, sorry, gonna retract that. Think to yourself, what makes a haiku a haiku? I'm gonna give you half a minute, and then you're gonna share with your friends. Those of you at home, think for a minute, and then I'll ask you to post in the chat, but don't do that yet. Eight out of 50? And then the 5 to the 5. Okay, turn to a neighbor and share some of your thoughts. All right, somebody want to share one of the characteristics you were thinking about and talking about? I'm going to pick on you because I heard you.
Yeah, it's got a two-part structure where you're juxtaposing two parts. Kind of doesn't necessarily be in the same moment, but usually.
Nice. So you write haiku.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we call that the fragment and a phrase, and also there's a juxtaposition of. Well, I'm going to give away one of the other things, like sensory input, and there's some sort of leap between them or spark between them. So that's good. Who else has something?
Short to the point.
Short to the point, yet very short. We often use the phrase, they're one breath poem. What was that?
17 syllables.
Yeah, did you say I was going to shoot you down? No, what did you say? So that's good because traditionally there's 17 on, because they're written in Japanese. On is not a syllable. So then English-speaking people said, oh, there's 17. And if you're familiar with haiku, they were written in one line, but there were three different kind of arrangement of three different lines, shall we say, in that one line. So we've adopted this belief that there's 17 syllables. And I like to, joke that there's two places in the world where we absolutely adhere to that. Can someone name one of them?
School.
Wow, very good. School, like every school teaches that because it's easy, it's digestible, it's fun. But when I'm writing haiku with kids, I don't want to see this. And I get it. It's part of the challenge. Where's the other place? Where do haiku originate? Japan. Okay, what else? Any other characteristics?
An aha moment.
What was it?
An aha.
There's sort of a sense of discovery, some revelation that takes place, and it may be a minor revelation, but what was it?
Like a reaction to a moment.
Yeah, there's this discovery, and we'll hopefully see that through some of these. Anything else? Yeah.
Yeah, do like a seasonal reference.
Oh, that's a good one too. Yeah. So they have a seasonal reference. So if I say the word cicada or cicada, you say cicada, right? That's a seasonal word. It means summer, and it right away tells us a lot with one word because it fills in more information. In Japan, there are these things called sajikis, and I've looked online for them, and they're in Japanese, so that makes it difficult. This one was put up by Bill Higginson, and it references the 6 seasons. We know 4, but there's 6 seasons, and then through examples demonstrates. And what's interesting is when we talk about some of these phenomena, they may happen in South Jersey at a different time than North Jersey, and that may be on the cusp of a season. But these are these are more of a historic capture of the seasonality of these moments. But there are words called kigo, so they're in here. So I just opened it randomly. Pigeon barley is a kigo. It means you're in early autumn, and I don't know what pigeon barley is. Snail means early summer. Does that mean that's the only time you see snails? No. But diehard haiku traditionalists will flag you if you have 2 kigos. Like if I have a snail in spring, oh no, you violated. And I tend to, modern haiku has become a little liberal in that sense. But these are cool. There's this, and then there's a journal that put out a Sajiki called Early Morning Fireflies. So you can take a look at these afterwards. Let me just share some of. Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, really? Okay, then I'm going to jump, before I answer that, I'm going to hand out this piece of paper because I'm not convinced if I show it up there that you're going to be able to see it in the back. There are maybe 16 small poems. What I want you to do, let you pass some different direction, is take a look, see, just examine. What do they have in common, if anything? Is there a favorite in there? Just anything you observe. Who does not have? Oops, sorry, Karen, just trying to. Who else? Does everybody have one? You got too many? You got twice the word. Read it twice. Dan, you good? So maybe I wandered away from the mic. You've been able to share that? Yep. So if you're at home, just look these over and see what kind of characteristics they may have in common. Just going to give you a moment to look at these. Hey, looks like my son's there. Yay, Zach. you might be halfway through this list, or maybe not. I also want you to think, is there a favorite among these as you're reading? Yeah, you can pick them all as favorites. So first, just a group question, and that is, anything that we didn't talk about as being haiku jumping out at you? Are these haiku? Maybe? I like that answer. Maybe, right? Because wait, what happened to 17 syllables, right? So this is completely random. I just chose a bunch of haiku that I like and made a resource that I use with students. And I thought we should do a counting exercise. So if you have a favorite haiku, look at it and count the syllables in each line. So if you've done that, or if you're doing it, I know it was just chance. None of them are 575. And a couple things are going on here. Some of the names may sound different than our Anglo-Saxon names. That's because these are traditional Japanese haiku writers, and so it would have been written in Japan and would have been written in Japanese. And some of the earliest translations turned them into 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables. I even have a book that turned them into 5 words, 7 words, 7 words. But you're losing the essence and the art of what is happening. So this moment came to bear when we discovered, haiku and started to play with it. And some of these people were doing one set of translations, and then there were people, believe it or not, like Jack Kerouac, who are like, wait a minute, no, I'm going to do this. And if you read any of Kerouac's work, there's a lot of, he's hiking with Gary Snyder, aka Jaffe Ryder, and they're just spouting off haiku that they're kind of encountering. It's a very interesting moment in history. And what I think it did, it really honored the spirit of haiku. Now, I haven't spoken to somebody, well, I have spoken to some people in the Japanese haiku community, but there's probably mixed feelings about what that is. And it's become very liberal, depending on where you are. Everybody just share, if you have a favorite, turn to a neighbor, share a favorite. If you're online, if you could just type the first line, if there's a favorite haiku, and we'll take a moment to do that, to share.
I like the one where,
All right, this is good. We got a lot of ground to cover. I hate to cut people off while they're having fun, but so just online, somebody named Robert really enjoyed Seaweed, Between Rocks, Forgotten Tides. And I always like to tell people, when you read haiku, I won't use the wine analogy, but I always like sip them. Like, you could plow through a haiku book really fast. No. I write a haiku book, and when I always give it to people, I say, take time with it. You let it linger, roll around, because you may look at it tomorrow and have a different thought of what was being captured. And that's kind of the fun of it. Did anybody else say that was one of their favorites? No. And Sydney was on there. She said, what did she say? Pieces of Sky. This is the bottom left-hand corner. Pieces of Sky in the forest canopy, summer's end. And I'm still this child. Like there is a point in every season where I have to be on my back because there's stuff going on above us. And that perspective is joyous, it's enlightening. How can we live without that? So when we're in the forest, we're walking like this, but when it's fall, when you stop and look up, what do you see? Pieces of sky. How about, anybody else have a favorite one here? Yes.
My favorite was the one after the storm, a boy wiping the sky from the tables.
That's a great one.
Because it's multiple things. You've got the rain that came from the sky, he's wiping that too.
Mm-hmm.
But the puddles on the table could be reflecting the sky.
Absolutely.
As well, who's pushing it up.
So I will tell you that the more you write haiku, the more you discover those things. There have been haiku I've written that I learned as I would submit them to journals, like, no, put them in my own journal, let them sit, let them sit, let them sit, because I may look later and the changing of one word makes a huge difference or adds another element like that. That's a good one. Yeah, Dan.
Now, I've got a question. So a lot of this haiku has to do with either earth or water or sky. Is that
Okay, sure. The question is related to the earth, the sky, and you're noticing a trend here. Damn you, Dan. That's just random. And we're going to blow that out of the water because most of them are going to be about natural phenomena. So this isn't a perfect match. Anybody else have one more favorite? Yes. Okay, that was for folks at home experimenting. I hung the moon on various branches of the pine. This is a great one with middle schoolers. But right, same thing. Like I have to do this when I'm in the woods now. I have to hang out and go, lean this way, lean that way, and the moon is moving around. Is it earth-shattering? No, but there's this great moment of perception and aha. And it's, hey, I'm gonna play while just sitting here looking at the sky through the trees. Cool. All right. So just to recap, maybe here's some things. Nope, why is it not working? Let's try that again. All right, so I think we covered everything that I wanted to cover. Traditionally 3 lines in 5/7/5 own. We English speakers adopted it into 5/7/5 syllables. They originated in Japan. They were part of a longer piece of work and were kind of broke off in the 1700s as just haiku. They are about nature. So if you go to Barnes and Noble, you'll find vampire haiku and zombie haiku and other things. And I'm not judging. You will see, you'll open them up, they'll be 5/7/5, but they're not, people in the haiku community, yeah, they will judge. They don't have a title. They are super short. They convey some sort of discovery or insight, and there's a spark between, as this gentleman said, there's sort of 2 parts, and there's a spark that flows between them. And they're imagistic. I don't know if did I get them all? Maybe, come on, you can do it. Nope. Oh, and seasonal reference, which was mentioned as well. Oh, present tense. If there's a sense of the moment happening, it's happening right now. Why is that important? You are in the moment. You're experiencing what the poet, it's a simple device, but it works really well. Rarely rhyme. Yeah, they don't rhyme. What did I do? Oh, when I got into haiku, this was what captured me. And I vaguely remember learning haiku in elementary school and counting on my fingers. And then in college, I love used bookstores. And there was a used bookstore in New Brunswick. And I probably still have this book. And it had a translation of Kobayashi Isa, borrowing my house from insects, I slept. Just stunned me. I love Isa. Isa had such a tragic life, and yet was consistently a fan of the underdogs. He probably holds the record for most haiku about fleas, about rats. He's just got this amazing connection. And I love this one. And if you've been in my house, if you really look closely, you'll see how I love it, because there are spiders in predictable places. Whose house is it? I know they don't pay the mortgage, but they're in the house too. Yeah.
Could it also mean you're out camping and you're borrowing?
Very
all
good.
of the insects?
Yep. So, in fact, Isa was sort of homeless at periods of his time. Homeless is a strong word. That's not really it, but would be on the road, walking. So, yeah, you're sleeping under a natural shelter. Yeah.
Also silk. You could also have silk in his house. It's like maybe blinds or something.
Oh, yeah.
It's a
Yep.
insect material.
So anything can come in and out.
Yeah.
Sure. I love Basho's Skylark sings all day and day not long enough. And that's a great one with anybody to talk about, because again, different meanings. But I always tell my interpretation is that this Basho loves this bird. Loves this bird. Another interpretation is this bird loves to sing, right? But I think Basho is in love with this world, in love with the skylark, and the day is ending. And no, keep going, keep singing. And then Shiki wrote millionaires, and this is the translation. This isn't like a mistype. Millionaires come and drink of this water, and bears. I think that's a great one for the watershed. This water, it's everybody's water. It's everybody's water. And his point is these very, very rich people are protecting this water. They're drinking it. But guess what? Bears are drinking it too. So, all right. Sort of pretending to watch the clock. We're good. We're plenty good. Oh, so just here's a definition. I would bet if you Google definition haiku, you'll come up with a dozen completely different ones right off the bat, but with some similarities. So imagistic language is as good, is important. Convey the essence of an experience in nature is good. Seasonal word is something that is really important. 2 parts is really important, but we see those not falling away. Seasonal word is important, but they're less emphasized. That may not be fair to say, but in modern haiku is a little more liberal. So back to phenology real quick. So here's some things that happen this is just a few things that happen. And there's not a date, right? There's kind of a time-ish when these things happen. Great horned owls are on nests this month. The sap run, I would say the sap run is in February, almost March, not anymore. It's definitely, we every year here go, oh no, we didn't put the buckets out. It's happening. Groundhogs wake up at that time. Somebody mentioned skunk cabbage before, one of my favorite flowers. That's February, March. You can certainly see them, and this is not absolute. You can see them into April, but there's sort of a peak time we're capturing here. Spring peepers, I said, awaken, so that's February, March. The salamander rain, I don't know, I know there's places that don't have this phenomena, but there are salamanders called the ambostomids. They tend to be big and beefy salamanders, not that big. They're fossorial, meaning they live almost entirely underground. Spotted salamanders in the Sourlands are really common, but they live underground. They follow vole tunnels. But when the salamander rain happens, the ground is thawed enough, not completely thawed. The ice, the ponds are open enough. They may be completely covered in our eyes, but they have a way to get in there. And you'll get this melt and this runoff. And if you're out in the woods, it is phenomenal. You'll see Sourland Conservancy saying, whoa, get off the roads, don't drive, because they're crossing. And I actually did the opposite when I would take my kids out and we would stop. And so while there were stations of people crossing them, we would drive towards the stations and just cross things as we encountered them. Really magical event. We don't think about earthworms in that same sense, but maybe you've seen that, where suddenly the driveway, the sidewalk is completely covered. They've come up And that's what triggers the woodcock migration. That actually triggers a lot of things. Late March, mid-March, Phoebe's return, they're a type of flycatcher. So they need flies or insects to be flying about to survive. So they kind of follow the warmth as spring arrives. And spring beauty is just this lovely flower. It's fun to see, like this lawn is full of them. It depends on where you are. So this lawn, was very wild long ago. Nobody herbicided this to have a nice green grassy lawn. So those things survive. And this lawn has all these little white stars. Stop it. Okay. So now we're just going to run through some haiku. Lori had said this, but it's like an act of reverence or love. I write these things. I have to confess, I either have paper, in my pocket, or shoot, I don't have paper. I dictate it. It seems blasphemous to pull this out in the woods, but I'll dictate it. And then in the act of transferring it and thinking about it, it may change. And sometimes it's that moment, boom, you catch it. And that's because I've been practicing a while, but that's definitely not typically the case. So it is a practice. I practice every day. I make sure, and it's not like, hey, it's haiku time. I may just be walking in from the parking lot and there's a sapsucker doing its thing. I never know when it's going to happen. And I've gotten to that point where I refuse to let go of that distraction, some might call it. I'll call it receptivity. Deep winter. The kinglet dies until morning. You may be familiar with this winter visitor. This is a gold-crowned kinglet. People, it was really some physiologists who were looking at this bird and said, you know what? This bird is too small to survive winter. It has a 110-degree temperature. There's no way it can maintain that. It needs to eat 2 to 3 times its weight daily. That's nuts. It doesn't weigh much, but bugs weigh a lot less. So it is just feasting constantly. So it is surmised, though experiments have not revealed for sure, that they have to go into torpor, which is that they will be sleeping at night. They'll have sheltered areas. They'll bundle up like, hey, I'm sleeping with you tonight. They just all gather together on a branch, all these things to conserve temperature, but then they turn down the thermostat. And we can't do that. We can't say, you know what? I'm going to turn my body temperature down to 80 tonight. So really dramatic trick. It's like extremely short-term hibernation. One drop at a time. The sound of spring in a bucket. And I love that moment when we drill into the tree, you put the spout in and you just hear it right away. Boom, 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 boom. And that's Allison. I don't know if she knows I'm using this photo. Groundhog Day, without a shadow of a doubt. I have a lot of groundhog haiku, and for instance, this one has not been published. Most of these are published in the haiku world. I'll talk about that. But it's just fun. And I think, honestly, they're informed a little, some of them are informed by pop culture, if you remember that movie Groundhog Day. But that doesn't translate if you're not in tune with that. And so I almost feel like it's cheating, but it's fun to have those. Winter's End. The snowman loses his smile. They all lost their smile. That's the neighbors, that's across the street, and that was representing their family at the time. And all the mouths, all the stones had fallen out with the heat.
A cat or dog or child?
It's a child.
I think it's ears. People have ears.
Am I wrong? Was this might have been before Teddy? I'm not sure. It was with Teddy? You're taking a picture to send to them. This secret love affair, Symplocarpus, And you know, what makes like haiku, some haiku resonate, you're like, wait, what is he saying? Like, if you don't know me, you're like, ooh, and what does Symplocarpus mean? Like, something's going on. Well, yeah, what's going on is I'm on my knees in love with this plant. Like, it is a very amazing plant. It's got a lot of strange characteristics I won't go into it. It's also very wild looking. Hey, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna evolve to look like meat because we stink and that's who we attract to come and visit. It generates heat, which the cool part about that trick is it actually creates a vortex. So that opening, that overlap, the hot air comes up. So if I'm an insect going, hey, there is a scent here, if I get near that overlap, I get sucked in. So whether or not I'm satisfied, where is that food? I'm now pollinating. So it's a really brilliant bit of evolution and trickery. Love these frogs, and again, have a lot of haiku. I love this one, The Fine Art of Pillow Talk, Spring Peeper. And to be blunt, I don't know, you could view their songs in a lot of different ways, and maybe it's the romantic in me, you know, I call it pillow talk. You know, what it's really called, a lot of people use the term courtship call, what it's really called is an advertising call. Because that's what it is. It's the male saying, here I am, here I am, here I am. And then the females make decisions. We don't know what the decision's based on. We do know if they get too close, he's going to jump on her. But they're sorting this out in some way. You know, science says the louder you are, the more that are going to hear you. But that doesn't mean that you're, shall we say, more attractive. You know, we don't know what makes a female approach. And we you know, I bet you could pick up a text in herpetology. It's going to say it's their primal attract. There's more going on with these creatures. Every creature. They didn't survive this long just from basics. If salamander rain, 10,000 suns rising, and those yellow spots. I've usually, you know, Lori, I don't know if you've seen, I know I've seen them out during the day, but I don't seek them during the day. I'm usually waiting for that rain to go out at night. And it's just very dramatic when you see them. This dark creature with a sense of purpose, this drive, and it's got all these suns on it. Now we're in March, though we'll probably see earthworms before March. A slow dance in the rain. It's, what is that, Fred Astaire, right? Anyway, earthworms, it's not Fred Astaire. That wasn't slow, was it? He was. The sky is falling, Timberdoodle. Timberdoodle is more of an archaic name for woodcocks. I don't even know if field guides continue to have that as one of their common names. But it describes a couple of things. Their home in woodlands, doodling around, looking, they use that beak to probe for earthworms. You know, there are mad scientists who have dissected that bill and found just a density of nerve endings so that they know that when that woodcock plunges its bill into the ground, it can feel an earthworm. But yet, if you look at a beak, like, can that feel an earthworm? Again, this is the brilliance of design. Snow melt, the resurrection song of wood frogs. Yeah, and wood frogs, we have an event here celebrating World Water Day. And last year, it got canceled because of water. There was too much. There were floods and things. But literally the 2 or 3 years before that, we would schedule a vernal pool walk, you know, hoping, you know, you're scheduling it months out. Like, yeah, we should be able to see eggs. And we literally would arrive. You'd like look around for David Attenborough because literally they were waking up. They were descending on I led 2 hikes that day. I think we had 3 that day, and it was amazing just to see. And by the third hike, there were eggs. But the first hike, they were just starting to approach.
There was a weekend last year where they all migrated over here in like one day.
It's,
March 15th.
it's usually pretty dramatic. And resurrection, yeah, this is a creature that freezes. Again, another, like the spring peeper, quite an adaptation. First green in spring garden, only weeds. I used to, weed. My mom was a gardener, and I wish I could remember all the fine details of her gardening, because it definitely imprinted on me. I just don't remember all the details, but I remember weeding, like her showing me things that were weeds. I remember some of them, like scarlet, if you know scarlet pimpernel, which is a little tiny kind of, I don't know what color that is. It's not scarlet, but this kind of pinkish color flower. And I remember saying, "Wow, what is this?" She said, "Well, it's a weed." I'm not pulling that. And this is, what do we see? Some chickweed here, or maybe I see gill over the ground, or creeping Charlie, ground ivy, all the same plant. Oh, the other one is bitter cress in there. And I'm sure if I look closer, there's more of these kind of classic weeds. And weeds are, Emerson said, not my son, who might be on here, said a weed is a plant whose virtues are not yet known. Right? And yeah, a weed is, I guess the definition, it's a plant where you don't want it, but they all have some obvious value. I'm not calling these little arrangements of some of these key phenology moments the seasons, but it just so happens this is approximate, right? Mid-March to mid-June might be called spring. We have, the shadbush blooms in April, and this fish is migrating up the river. So shad, that's why shadbush is called that. Morels, a tasty treat. Pinkster flower, it's a native azalea that blooms early in May. There's a warbler season, but there's this moment, which is why the World Series of Birding usually takes place like the second weekend, when there's just tons of warblers. And when I was a diehard birder, the goal was, let me see if I can see 20 species. And when I was a diehard birder, I would see 20 species in a day, most years, not every year. But a lot of that is just luck, because you have to catch when some are cruising through. They got to fuel while they fly, so you'd have these great encounters. We mentioned some of these from our game. What didn't we mention? We didn't mention Juneberries. Juneberry is it's referenced, is it not referenced? Did I just say? Yeah, that is shadbush. Shadbush because that's when it blooms. Juneberry because that's when it has fruit. Yule Gibbons sent me on a major mission to gather Juneberries. And one of the things he said, which turned out to be true, is they're prized by wildlife. So it's hard to get a Juneberry because the birds snag them. But the way to get them is to find a Juneberry tree and spread a blanket and shake it. And that's hard because some of these trees are, if they're 6 inches thick, which is a big Juneberry, you're not really going to shake it. But that's the only way I've been able to eat them, because I've never been able to reach them. The sun at the edge of the pond, painted turtle. At the watershed, the pond's pretty big, several acres. You can look across that pond and maybe not see a turtle, but you can see the light because they're reflecting, just like this one is. That's New Jersey's most abundant turtle. Pausing for a sermon. Jack in the pulpit. If you're not familiar with this plant, go take a look, starting in May. Piper at the gates of dawn, wood thrush. The thrushes are really one of the first birds in the morning to sing, and you would know that if you camp or if you sleep with your windows open. Robins are a thrush, and they go nuts in our neighborhood. You hear one, and then boom, they're all really eager. No time like now, mayflies. Mayflies have a synchronous hatch. They go from a nymph to an adult all together. And if you don't, you miss it because they live about 24 hours. So they have 24 hours to fly around, find a mate, and then lay eggs. So it seems like a strange occurrence, but they're not the only synchronous beings, but that is a really narrow window, 24, some of them 48 hours. That's it. That's what you got. I always tell kids, it's like you're a kid most of your life. A ribbon of light. Garter snake. Not my photo, but Michelle, this came from taking your class out. We saw a garter snake one time.
This is one that comes to eat the tadpoles at the butterfly house every year. It's done 2 years in a row.
Oh, he's welcome. Because those tadpoles are going to turn into frogs that eat the butterflies. Cricket song. Night sky turning. I mentioned that habit of just lying on my back. So I'm listening to crickets, just looking straight up. Here is kind of where we're going from late summer, midsummer to the end of summer, and yummy things like mulberries. We mentioned fireflies, annual cicadas. Don't have a cicada haiku in here. Annual cicadas are they're a proper name. They show up every year, but like periodical cicadas, it takes many years to become one. So they're underground 13 to 15 years before they pop out, but they're not synchronized. Periodical cicadas are like, okay, we got 15 more years. They're 17-year broods and 13-year broods. A lot of berries come out in summer. Katie did. I guess the only thing we didn't mention prior was the shaggy mane mushroom, and this was they were all around my cabin at that environmental conference we went to in the fall, and I don't see them very often, but when you do, it's always September, always September. Mulberry stains, my fingers on your lips. Definitely a favorite berry. Finding our way in the dark. Fireflies. I have to call out this photo. A guy named Kai Nomiyama took this photo in the Shikoku Island. He lives in Japan. And he started taking these time-lapse photographs and perfecting it of fireflies flashing. And he's got a ton, this saturated. In the upper part of the screen, you can see like one individual, right? That just went flash, flash, flash. You can see that with a couple of them. You can kind of follow them, but there's so many, they just kind of tangle.
In Delaware, we saw that all of them just flashed at once.
Oh, the synchronous. I have not seen that yet.
Amazing
Yeah.
to see.
Yeah.
We didn't know that was gonna happen. That was a surprise to us. Now apparently I've heard that people travel a long distance.
Yeah, I was unaware there was a group in Delaware. That's certainly more doable than going down to North Carolina or Tennessee, but one cast after another, measuring the brook. Campfire mosquitoes outdrink us. Anybody been there? Cumulonimbus, the towering cloud of gnats. And this is a tough one because some of these are just really widespread in terms of seasonality. Have you seen these gnats do this? So these are probably almost all males, and they get together, and I have haiku, I call them up-down gnats. I give them a lot of different names, just trying to convey something. And then the females see that, so they go, oh, I'm gonna go over there. And then I can't imagine what that's like. But so this is called a nuptial cloud. And then the other thing is sometimes like a flycatcher will find that this is going on, or a dragonfly will find this is going on, and they'll start swooping, but it really disperses that crowd pretty quick. Controlled burn, the songs of katydids. I love katydids. I have a lot of haiku about katydids. The controlled burn here is not about the environment, it's about their heart, right? Because that's why they're out there chanting, and it's just this like, I'm gonna keep chanting, because she's gonna come, I'm gonna find her, And it's hard as a naturalist to not see that for that reality. Brightening the living room, St. John's wort. And that's just from the habit of cutting wildflowers and putting them up around the house, though this sounds like I've just taken an herbal remedy. I guess in a way I have. I like playing around with the concept of haikus, and this one is one word, but it's not. Chanterelles.
Does that qualify as haiku?
Depends on who you ask. It got published. Cor Vanderhoovel was the first one to publish a one-word haiku, or not publish, have one published, and it was one word. It was tundra, and so people would go, I don't know, how is that a haiku? And for him, it was this one word in this sea of white. So when they talk about like two parts to a haiku, that's very much stretching the definition, but that's why that was there. And the two parts are in the word. This is about a mushroom, and it's all like, shh, don't tell anybody. I'm not telling anybody. Perseids, pressing wildflowers. On my back. Could have put another one, Perseids, counting mosquitoes. Green darn, stitching the sky to the meadow. One of the cards was autumn, the dragonfly migration. That's what this is referring to. And they just hunt back and forth, scooping up insects. They have these hairy legs. See how the legs are dangling? So then it's aiming for these gnats. Autumn chill, the acorn missing its cap. Stretching the sky, snow geese. Dang, that word got stuck up there. That is not part of it. Winter solstice, berry gathering waxwings. So we're at a very specific moment. And Andrew, here we are. Always the same old question. Great horned owls. So I'll just end with this. I love Shiki's haiku. This is not mine. I don't seem to have put Shiki's name on that. Millionaires come and drink of this water, and bears. I feel like it's emblematic of what this organization's trying to do. And I will say this. I will say thank you. First of all, it's lovely to have an audience. These are two of my two biggest worlds that occupy my time. And there's family, but nature, I've always been that nature guy. And then haiku is something I stumbled into about 15 years ago, and the intersection of them, I just love. I'm working it, and I'm known in the haiku community as sort of an outlier in that way. I'm an editor of an international haiku journal because they're like, yeah, we want Jeff, he's a naturalist. I said, yeah, I'm a naturalist first. So just before we do anything, there's some journals up here. There's the Sajiki, which says Haiku World. You can see what that is. There's journals. There's a bunch of different journals. Some of them come into being, some of them disappear. But those are, you can see what other journals are publishing. I have a book if anybody was interested in it. They're $20. I know I owe Lori a signature. You grabbed your book, right?
Yes.
What else is going on? There was a groundhog haiku up there. We have next weekend, we're celebrating Groundhog's Day. We have a special event where we're going to do a couple of things, very family oriented, I think I'll call it. But we'll go out and visit a groundhog hole. Or is it? I don't know where we're going. There's foxes in the groundhog den. I'm thinking of visiting, but and then just, we'll be doing World Water Day. Just stay in tune with the watershed. You can see what's going on our website. I'm sure Lori, if she didn't say the same thing, would say the same thing. Stay in tune with Sourlands. There's always too much going on. This is a big organization, the watershed. We have a person who's on top of communications, and she says, "You guys are doing too much. You're doing too much." I'll stop talking. Come on up and see this. Thank you for your time this evening. Hope you enjoy. And Lori, I'm going to just say this. Thank you, because we were hosting these, and I said, you know what I want to do? And I really feel like haiku are so out there. So I appreciate your willingness to, we'll do that. And so, thanks.
This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I think I speak for everyone when I say that I think our eyes are a little bit opened, a little bit wider now.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very well.
And I just want to thank everyone for coming. Thanks again to the Watershed. I want to really encourage you all to come back again on February 27th. We'll be hosting Rosalind Doremus of My Backyard at Nectar's, and she's going to be talking about the winter garden. So this information will be out at the table as you're going. Check our website. As Jeff said, there's really a lot going on. Speaking of which, those beautiful yellow spotted salamanders that you saw will be emerging soon, and we're preparing by having an amphibian crossing guard training or 3. So please check our website or follow us on social to find out when those are coming up. You don't have to go out and volunteer if you go to the training. You can just come and find out about this crazy phenomenon of amphibian migration. And I mean, yes, the birds and the monarchs get a lot of press, but I think amphibian migration might even be more spectacular.
Don't disagree.
Yeah, so come out to the training, learn all about it, decide whether or not you want to go out in the middle of the night in the freezing cold rain and help these little guys across the road, or whether you'd rather just stay home and pull something out of the freezer, because you definitely don't want to do what Jeff suggested earlier, which is to go out and drive, because really the best thing that most of us can do to help these guys make their way safely is just to stay home on those nights, because we have created roads that cross their ancient migratory routes. And when a car meets a salamander, it's not a good thing. We really are relying on those guys to perform lots of important ecosystem services. So if you want to really help out, don't do anything. Stay home. Stay home. So anyway, please do check your email, and we'll be sending out lots of cool information. I'm sure that Jeff will love to share. And we'll just stay in touch. Thank you again so much for coming out. We really appreciate it.
Yay.